Thank you so much, Natasha. I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago when we started this cooking series with Alliance Française. Such a gift. Thank you again for reaching out to us. I can't believe what a year it's been. I am so excited to be here with you, though, for a little bit more of a low-key cooking demonstration, because we're going to be celebrating the 13 desserts. And it sounds much more intimidating than it actually is. I'm not preparing 13 desserts. It's not like Le Grand Aioli, where I'm going to have every single pan and pot in the kitchen being used. The 13 desserts is actually 13 sweet treats that people in Provence would use to celebrate Christmas. Why 13? Because it's Jesus and his apostles, his 12 apostles. And in Provence in the 19th century, they were not eating sweet treats like macarons and petit fours like you were having in Versailles with the big culinary stars of the time and lots of sugar and flour. No, people were living on farms, they worked the land, and they were making desserts, what they call desserts, with what they were able to grow, cultivate, create themselves. So the 13 desserts is actually a series of nuts and fruits and sweet treats. There are some baked goods like les calissons, like le Pompe, which we're going to make together, but they're much more rustic in their character. And I personally love this, and actually think that I'll carry this on as a further tradition than just... Yes, and my daughter likes chocolate as well. But there was not as much chocolate in 19th century Provence. Anina. Merci. And as you can tell today, our son is napping right now, which is great. Our son Pierre is now 15 and a half months old, and our daughter Valentina is over 4 years old now, and she's hanging out with us. So welcome to our family. So let's get started. The first and foremost thing I'm going to make is the vin chaud. I love making the vin chaud, and it smells up the house to just like an incredible aroma where you get really the smells of Christmas. So we're going to start the vin. We're going to start the vin chaud. I grew up in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, so I did learn how to open a wine bottle, which I'm thrilled about, and got my culinary start actually working in vineyards and in wine shops when I was of legal age in British Columbia, which is 19 years old. So if you ever have the opportunity to go to British Columbia and visit the Okanagan Valley, it is a beautiful, beautiful region. So for the vin chaud, really just take the cheapest red wine that you can find. This is a $10 bottle of Bordeaux. I like something that has tannins, though, that has a nice structure. You don't really want to go for a sweet wine because you are adding sugar. So something that has a nice tannin structure and will be rather tart is great. And we're just going to put it directly into the pot. I'm using a stainless steel pot here, and I'm going to pour the entire bottle. So I'm going to put this on medium heat, and we're going to bring it up to a low simmer and allow it to simmer for about 10 minutes. I'm also going to add in a few spices. So I'm going to add in a cinnamon stick, 1 anise étoilé. This is an ingredient that we use all the time. If you don't have star anise in your house, I highly suggest that you buy some. We keep everything in Bon Maman jars, Bonne Maman, sorry, and with the culinary tape on the side with the little, this is the chef's tip. Everything stays in a jam jar in our kitchen. And star anise, not only is it great for Christmas baking, it is amazing for chicken noodle soup. If you're making a chicken bouillon, add 1 star anise, and it's, c'est parfait, c'est magnifique. So we're going to put that in with the bottle of wine, and then we're also going to put 2 cloves. So 2 big cloves like this. These are whole cloves. If you don't have the whole cloves or the whole star anise or the whole cinnamon stick, you can use powdered cinnamon and powdered cloves. I just like using the whole ones because then you can easily fish them out afterwards as well. So we're going to let that come to a light simmer for 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to start la pompe à l'huile. Now, la pompe à l'huile is one of my favorite Provençal breads, which is, it sounds very, very weird. La pompe à l'huile actually means the oil pump. The oil pump is, and they call it the oil pump because in 19th century Provence, when the farmer that cultivates the olive oil, when they would finish their vats of olive oil, they took all the olive oil out, they would dump flour into the bottom of the vats of olive oil and mix it around to get up every single last drop of olive oil. And so it created this really compact dough with the olive oil that they would then bring to the local baker, and the local baker would turn it into la pompe à l'huile. And so we can actually recreate this in our own kitchens, which I really love, because making it in your own kitchen makes sure that it comes out hot out of the oven and you can enjoy it right then. One thing I noticed living in the south of France, I actually probably never tasted la pompe à l'huile as good as it is in my own kitchen, because I know that sounds horrible to say, but because it would come to the table cold. Whoever went to the bakery to go get it would bring it to the table, and by the time it arrived, it was cold, and it's just not as good. It comes out of the oven and it almost tastes like a fry bread. It's amazing. So this is la pompe à l'huile that I made this morning, and it has been rising for 5 hours in a lot of olive oil, as you can see. Est-ce que c'est bon, mon amour?
Very nice.
C'est parfait. La pompe à l'huile here is, it's an incredible fragrant dough because there's orange blossom in there. The orange blossom just adds such a wonderful Christmassy effect to it. And this is what it looks like when it's been rising for 5 hours. So it's a relatively flat dough. It doesn't get to be like a big puffy rise like a brioche, but you'll see it's really nice and light and airy. So this has been rising for 5 hours. I'm gonna put this to the side. Okay, I'm gonna put it directly in the oven. Thank you, chef. So creating a yeast ball is really interesting. I'm just gonna tilt this down so you can see this better. This is a technique that we picked up in GIannini's book, Noël en Provence. This is a book that we swear by. It has all of the Provençal traditions of Christmas. GIannini is my husband's culinary mentor. And this book is called Noël en Provence, le gros souper, les 13 desserts. And one thing I'm having so much fun doing is actually going through this book and adapting some of the recipes to what we can make in North America. And I just find it absolutely magical. I love going through it, and it talks about les 13 desserts, and this is la pompe à l'huile. And it also talks about le gros souper de Noël and also le souper maigre de Noël, which is served on the 24th. So in order to make la pompe à l'huile, first you start with 12 grams of active dry yeast. And I'm going to dilute it with 3 tablespoons of warm water. The author is GIannini. His name is G-U-Y and then G-E-D-D-A. And he's like a founder of Provençal cuisine. I think this book is about 20 years old, to be honest. And he's a personal friend of ours, so that's kind of how we know him. I got to meet him when he was doing cooking demonstrations with my husband in Sauliers-Pont in the south of France. So we're just gonna let the yeast dissolve in with the warm water, and I'm gonna add 3 spoons of flour as well to make the ball. So before the class, I actually weighed out 500 grams of all-purpose flour. And the flour is what I'm using to make these.
Can you tilt the camera a little bit?
Yes. Thanks, Mom. And Merry Christmas. My mom is taking the class in the UK, where she's with my sister, who lives in the UK. She lives in Clevedon outside of Bristol. And yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about being an expat family, is that we're not able to be together for the holidays each year, but we try to alternate one year to the next. Now I'm just gonna go in there with my fingers because it's much better that way. I like these grandmother's tricks for Provençal cooking. And I'm gonna put the ball together like this into kind of a compact ball. Trying to make it compact. It's not wanting to cooperate. Isn't that always the thing? I've made this recipe like 5 times in the past week and a half. And when the cameras start rolling, that's when things go a little bit sideways sometimes. Thank you. But we figured this out. So this is a yeast ball. It's nice and like glutinous and kind of messy. But I'm gonna put that directly inside warm water. Can you pour it for me? Thank you. And we're gonna let this rise in the warm water like this. And then I'm gonna wash my hands.
Maybe Sébastien, can you tilt the camera a little more so that we can see how it's in the water?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Yes. Great.
Stop touching my yeast.
Okay.
Qu'est-ce que tu me fais là? So we're gonna let this rise a little bit. In the meantime, I am going to take une jaune d'œuf. Chef, may I have a jaune d'œuf, please? So we're gonna let this rise for 5 minutes here, okay? So thank you very much. And that's how the yeast is going to activate. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to make a jaune d'œuf to brush onto la pompe à l'huile. So we're kind of, yes, we're kind of mixing steps here because if you were making la pompe à l'huile from scratch, you would start with the yeast ball and then you would let it rise for 5 hours. Jaune d'œuf is egg yolk, sorry. And the brush, thank you.
Un petit peu d'eau froide.
Where's my...
Un petit peu d'eau froide.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple drops. So I'm adding a little bit of water to the egg yolk, which is a tip that Sébastien taught me because I have to add some of this too. I originally was not adding water to the egg yolks before I basted it on top of the bread, and it was creating almost like a kind of crackly crust, whereas he suggested you have to dilute it a little bit. I'm also going to dilute it with a little bit of orange blossom. Orange blossom is an incredible product. It's not always easy to find. It almost has like a perfumey essence to it. Oranges and orange trees, un bouchon, are very common in Provence.
Voilà. Voilà, un bouchon.
Un bouchon, a cap of orange blossom. And you can find orange blossom in specialty gourmet stores, or else you can also find it in, you can order it off Amazon. And so yes, orange blossom you can order directly off Amazon, and it's really quite easy to find that way. Thank you.
Bombarde.
Bombarde. So I'm just going to brush this over the pompe à l'huile. Tu me laisses moi?
Before it go to oven, not after. Not
yes,
between.
That is one critical step. You cannot brush the egg yolk on top of the bread if you've already put it in the oven, because then it becomes scrambled eggs on top of the bread. You need to add it on when the bread is cool, or the dough is cool. Tu veux le finir? Thank you. I want to show you, he's going to finish that, what the yeast ball looks like. This is really interesting. It almost is like a science project. See how much it's like, it's grown in size and it's bubbling and kind of like moving around in the bowl. I love yeast. It fascinates me. I love baking breads. And so yes, this yeast ball is doing what it's supposed to do. So we're going to start using it shortly. Sébastien is mastering the art of badigeonner, is the French word, of dabbing.
Lustrer.
Lustrer, the pompe à l'huile with the egg yolk and a little bit of water. So you want it to be really runny. And it's going to make a lovely sheen on top of the pompe à l'huile. So I've heated up my oven to 410 degrees. I'm going to now bring the heat down to 350 degrees. And this is all written in the recipe. Because you want to put it in a really hot oven to start. And then the oven is just going to not stay as hot so you don't have a burnt bread. So la pompe à l'huile goes in the oven for 15 minutes. Yes. The wine is smelling really good. So this has been going for about 10 minutes, the wine here. So I'm going to go back to the wine and I'm going to add in the sugar. So I think it was 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 4 tablespoons of brown sugar. Goes right in. I'm going to mix it with my spoon that I can't find. Voilà. And I'm going to bring the heat down a little bit more. And I'm going to take care of the bread, because if I don't look what this yeast ball is doing. I actually missed my little window of opportunity. This yeast ball split in size. I don't know if you can see this properly. There you go. So I need to take it out really quickly. it is actually like a living organism. So I'm going to put the 500 grams of flour inside the KitchenAid. Yeast is a living organism, so it is alive. You can see there. It goes in there. I'm taking this out of the water so that it stops kind of like splitting apart because it's multiplying. There we go. So the water that's left behind is really cloudy and yeasty. And now I'm going to add in 2 pinches of salt.
C'est important que la farine soit bien remuée.
Right.
Pas que ça fasse de gruau.
It's very important that the flour is really nicely mixed, so it doesn't make grains. And now I'm going to also add my olive oil and my orange blossom. And in order to do that, you're going to make a little well inside the, thanks Mom for the translation, clumps. You're going to make a well inside the flour. So, I just put flour all over myself. So I'm making a well inside the bowl of flour and sugar, and I'm going to add in 8 tablespoons of olive oil. So there's quite a lot of olive oil. 7 and 8 tablespoons. I still need that. Thank you, Chef. I love that my husband, who is used to having 100 kitchen people working with him, is my sous chef. And he's like cleaning up as I go along, making sure I don't make mistakes, which I always really appreciate. Yes, so Sébastien is reminding me we need to put the orange rinds inside the vin chaud.
Petite écorce orange.
So at the same time, I'm adding 3 tablespoons of orange blossom water to the flour and sugar and salt mixture of the pompe à l'huile. And then I'm just going to really mix it up nicely. You can absolutely do this by hand without a KitchenAid. And the first time I did it without a KitchenAid as well, and it was really nice. But I find that the KitchenAid makes it so much easier and also much neater because you don't have the crumbs of flour that are going all over the place. So once it's nicely mixed, I'm gonna like take my spatula in there. Thank you. Make sure it's nicely mixed, and then I'm gonna add in the yeast ball. No, I'm gonna add the orange juice first. And also what I'm...
Quand tu as tout qui est en bas, tu peux ajouter le liquide en premier.
Okay.
Tu peux dire en anglais.
When you're using the KitchenAid, where did my oranges go? Chef cleared away my oranges before I could use them. When you're using a KitchenAid, it's also sometimes nice to put the liquid in first because then you're not getting clumps at the bottom. I'm going to zest this orange directly into the, I'm going to take this out. Directly into the bowl because you want a nice orange zest in there too before adding in the orange juice. Merci. And then I'm going to add in the orange juice so you get a really nice moist dough for the brioche. If you don't have a microplane zester at home, I highly recommend that you purchase one. I linked a blog, I have a blog post where I list the kitchen essentials that I use. The microplane is definitely listed in there. It's also listed, I think, in the blog post of the pompe à l'huile. Microplane zester, we use it for everything from garlic to orange zest to Parmesan cheese. So it's one of my favorite tools. We have the zest of one orange, and we're just going to mix again. And I'm going to slowly add the orange juice.
Slowly.
Slowly. And it's creating like this beautiful, it's creating beautiful pumps. Sebastian's going in there with the spatula to pull it off the side. I'm gonna bring the camera over here so you can see what we're doing. Look in. So can you add in more? I'm gonna add in more orange juice. And just continuing to add in orange juice so that the dough becomes nice and moist. So the vin chaud has been steaming away or is on a very low heat here. What I'm going to do now is actually add the Grand Marnier. And there's a trick to this. First, I'm going to take everything out of the spices out of the vin chaud with a slotted spoon. I'm removing the orange peels. And now I'm gonna turn off the heat, and then I'm going to add the Grand Marnier. And the reason for this is that if you keep the heat on while you're adding the Grand Marnier, you're essentially going to cook the Grand Marnier. Where you don't want to cook the Grand Marnier, you really want it to just add this incredible decadent orangey flavor to your vin chaud that is really something special. And so I'm going to turn off the heat and add a 1/4 cup of Grand Marnier. And we're going to let it just sit there. The kitchen smells unbelievable. It smells like Christmas. It reminds me of Christmases in the south of France. Yeah, this is really getting us in the holiday mood.
It's always good to not put the sugar at the same time that you start to put the wine at the beginning.
Yes. So Sébastien is pointing out that the sugar, you don't put in the mulled wine at the very beginning. We've added it in afterwards, after the wine is heated up, because you don't want grains of sugar inside the mulled wine. That's looking really good. So I'll show you what the mulled wine looks like. It really just looks like wine, but it smells unbelievably fragrant, and the orange really comes through nicely. So we're just gonna let it sit there. The mulled wine can sit for quite a while, actually, and we're gonna enjoy that afterwards. Oh, on a fait le... And I almost forgot the yeast. So I'm going to bring the camera back over here. So right now we have a beautiful ball of dough here with the orange flavor, the orange juice. We're going to add the yeast ball directly in. Ajouter un peu plus, non? He's going to use the marise or the spatula to get every little last bit of yeast, because this is, of course, the active ingredient that is going to make the dough rise. So just mixing it all together. And then I'm going to have the fun job of rolling it out. Baking bread is something that I learned to do in quarantine. I had actually never baked bread before in my life. In France, very few people know how to bake bread apart from bakers, because people go to the bakery. It's so easy to go to the bakery at a moment's notice. But in the United States, you don't have great bakeries everywhere you turn. In Washington, D.C., we're lucky to have some really great French bakeries. Fresh Baguette, Boulangerie Christophe, and Je ne sais quoi. They're all amazing places to go and get French pastry and French bread and croissant. We live in McLean, Virginia. There is not a great French bakery yet, but I think that there will be one coming. And so I learned how to make my own baguette. And it was a fun thing to learn how to do in quarantine as well, because I mean, what else are you going to do, right? And my daughter absolutely loves baking with me, and she always gets involved. The moment she hears me taking a cast iron pot off the shelf, she runs into the kitchen like she did earlier. Baking is not our, like, and this is the interesting thing about France. Everyone is so, is such specialists that they really become experts of their craft. And my husband, his 22-year or 25-year culinary degree or career is in sucré and salé. So he does not consider himself a professional baker. He is a professional executive chef, but he would not, you know, it wouldn't come to him to open up a bakery because that is not his métier. And I think that the concept of métier in France is really interesting because it is your life's work and it's something very important.
Can we show you the pompe à l'huile?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to show you the pompe à l'huile that is about ready to come out of the oven. Do not judge that my oven is not impeccable. So see how it has grown? Do you see it?
Yes.
So it's nice and like puffy, and it looks absolutely beautiful and is huge. And we are going to enjoy that all evening.
So for how long is it in the oven?
15 minutes. So we're almost on 15 minutes. It's very quick, but I'm going to actually put it in a couple more minutes because I do not find that it is done enough. I like it to be more of a golden brown, so I'm going to turn off the timer. Thank you. And Pierre has woken up, so Sébastien is going to go and get Pierre. Hashtag teamwork down here. And my dream, Natasha, is to have one day a kitchen with an island that I can set up like a media. Yes, Patricia, you can have the recipe for a smaller pompe à l'huile. I've even made a third of the recipe before, and it was maybe just a little bit too small because we love pompe à l'huile. But I'm going to use this. And the dough's kind of sticky, so I'm just going to add more flour to it. I sprinkle on flour. Roll it around. Dough is an incredible thing. I used to be so intimidated by dough, and now I realize there's so many things you can do to fix it. The only thing that you can't fix is when you don't have yeast that is working. If your yeast does not rise, if your yeast ball is not bubbling, it's time to abort the mission. You need to go and get more yeast because yeast can die. As I said, it's a live entity. And so if your yeast is not alive, you're not going to be able to succeed your bread or your pompe à l'huile or whatever you're making. But as long as you get the yeast to bubble, you can fix things. My dough is a little moist, so I'm just sprinkling some more flour until I can get it to a form that I like. I'm just kneading here. I push my palms down on the bread and then fold it back like this. And push my palms, fold it back. And it smells so deliciously orange zesty. Can you guys hear Pierre in the background? He doesn't sound very happy.
Not yet.
Not yet. He's letting Papa know. He's like, I'm not having this. So see how this is a really nice, tense ball. It's like, I love having fun with dough. So I think this is about ready to roll out. And I'm going to take my grandmother's rolling pin. This is my Québécoise grandmother's rolling pin that was passed down to me. Merci, maman. And that I absolutely love. So you can see I'm using a cutting board and I'm rolling out on my cutting board. I do that only to contain the mess. You can definitely roll out on a countertop. And I have a marble or quartz, or I don't know what this is, countertop. So I could be rolling out on that. But I like this cutting board because it's easier to clean up. So that is the timer for the pompe à l'huile. I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna let it Another 2 minutes. I use my oven timer all the time. It's like Google Alerts in my work calendar. If you don't have a Google Alert, you completely forget what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm gonna roll this out, pressing to make kind of like a rectangular shape, a leaf shape. I'm gonna pull it out a little bit too, because I feel like it's resisting me. And it tore, that's okay, I can just push it back together. So I like that it's an olive oil dough. It's also a vegan dough. If you don't put the egg yolk on the top before you cook it, this is actually a vegan dessert. Interesting thing about bread, once you start baking bread, is that bread is predominantly vegan. Who knew? So it just requires a little bit of elbow grease here. And rolling it out this way too. And we have a nice, thick, smooth dough, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to take a cookie sheet. Hi, Pierre.
Ça bien encore. C'est encore cassé là. Faut bien que ça soit uniforme.
Okay. He's telling me that I rolled it out a little bit too much. I'm also pretty proud of my dough. And so now I'm going to take a sharp.
Quand c'est sur la plaque.
Okay.
Quand c'est sur la plaque.
Quand c'est sur la plaque. I'm going to take this out. Oh, perfect.
Oh là là.
Oh, this is going to be amazing.
Dis bonjour, Pierre.
Attention, chérie.
Let's walk out.
OMG. Show you here what la pompe à l'huile looks like. And it smells so beautifully fragrant. It's a nice resistant dough. I'm gonna put it right here. And it's in the form of a leaf. Now, I'm going to take some more olive oil. So this is done now, which is amazing. But to finish our demonstration of the dough, I'm going to take some olive oil and generously put this over a cookie sheet. I love these USA Pan non-stick cookie sheets. Do you want me to hold here?
Yep.
Thank you. Oh. Uh-oh. Sébastien is lifting the dough off and putting it directly on the cookie sheet, and he's going to spread it out with his fingers. So it's about 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch thick, and he's spreading it out. But of course, as you see that it continues to rise in the oven. Do you want to describe what you're doing?
Yes, we are just going to do a small design, you know, like a leash, you know, very simple, you know.
And he's doing cuts directly into the dough that will open up and spread apart as the dough rises.
Et voilà.
Et voilà. Do you want to hold it up?
Yes.
Beautiful.
So that is la pompe à l'huile. And as we said, is a key part of les Treize Desserts. I'm going to take the pompe à l'huile that came out of the oven and put it on a wooden board so that we can add it to our Treize Desserts table, which I'm going to take it in. Yeah. I'm going to move this over here. So this, if you were making this at home, would sit like this for 5 hours. And then after the 5 hours and it's had time to rise, then that's when you would put it in the oven, like we did.
Tu veux dessus, tu peux mettre un peu de sucre glace.
Oh wait. Ooh, Sébastien is offering a variation that I did not put in the blog, but to put icing sugar on top of the pompe à l'huile. And that looks absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh.
Pierre, tu veux faire ça?
I think you would make a mess of it. So now to pick up the pompe à l'huile. Oi, 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 oi. Are you nervous, babe?
Oui.
Yeah, he's like, I'm nervous.
Attends.
No, I got this. I got this. I'm feeling it. I got it. He's like, sort of. There we go.
Look at that.
Donc la pompe à l'huile. And I'm going to take this over to the table. Babe, can you stay with them? I'm going to take this over to the table. Any questions for Sébastien?
Yes, practical question. So when the dough is rising, do you cover it with a towel for 5 hours or is it uncovered?
Uncovered.
Okay.
Yeah. Uncovered. You don't want to have too much moisture and humidity. You have enough water, you know, in the recipe of the dough with orange juice, you know, and the active yeast. You don't want any more moisture. And as you can see, when you cook this, you know, it's kind of not a fluffy brioche, you know, but a nice brioche with no crust, you know. This is the principle of the pompe à l'huile. With all of the olive oil inside, you know, it's moist, you know. This is why we don't want to have a rag on it, you know, because we don't want to have a crust. Pierre? Voilà.
So I'm gonna take you through our house towards our dining room table.
Et le vin chaud.
Ah, the vin chaud.
Le vin chaud.
Almost forgot the vin chaud. I'm going to serve it.
Goûter.
Can we put it in the Duralex glasses or do you want it in the wine glasses?
Duralex.
In the Duralex glasses.
Mouah.
So
before we switch to the le vin chaud, how do you know to take it out of the oven? I remember you and Belle would look at it, right? And then put 2 more minutes. So what were you looking into?
I was looking at the coloration of la pompe, that it was a nice golden color. And I was also looking that it's not too soft, that it has a nice resistance to it.
Okay, Pierre.
So I use Duralex glasses for our vin chaud because they're heat tempered. If I were to put the vin chaud when it's too hot inside crystal glasses, it would be catastrophique.
What's interesting on the color of the vin chaud, you know, the color is the same as the wine, you know, at the beginning, you know, it's not too light, it's not too pink, you know, like red butter, you know, it's very, very nice.
And it's so fragrant and lovely.
Oui, bonjour. Bonjour. Bonjour.
Bonjour, Pierre.
Bonjour. Une poule qui picore.
This is what the vin chaud looks like. So just really a thick, it looks exactly like the deep red wine. And just so fragrant. The spices are amazing. Okay. And I'll take you on a trip to our dining room.
Yes, please.
Excuse me for a camera that will move around a little bit. This is my favorite spot, just to show you actually. It was one of the reasons why we bought this house, is because I fell in love with this shelving right here where we put our Le Creuset pots, and we put all of Sébastien's, not all of his, but some of his favorite cookbooks are here, and a couple of my favorite cookbooks have space there, but not too many. And our little bistro table here, and take you into our dining room. And I'm just going to show you in detail what we have on the table here. So, en français, Valentina?
En français.
Des oranges, des pommes, des chocolats.
Everything. So this is the 13 desserts. As you can see, it looks like a grazing board and is a beautiful festive table that is filled with nuts and fruits and sweet treats that are all part of the Provençal dining experience.
On a les santons, les petits santons de Provence, the small santon of Provence.
And these little santons are pottery figurines that we buy at the markets in France. Our tradition was that we were going to buy 1 a year or 2 a year, And then we haven't been in France for 2.5 years, so we are missing quite a few. I'm gonna set this here. One second. There we are.
Valentina, viens ici ma chérie, laisse le santon. Bon, tu veux présenter?
Yes. And then I also want to, so the 13 desserts, this is what you enjoy on the 24th of December. It is served after le repas maigre, and le repas maigre is the light meal that is traditionally served in Catholic households on the 24th. It is a light meal before Christmas Day, and we'll have like a chicken bouillon, and we'll have not a very rich meal. The 24th is definitely not the most important meal. However, afterwards, we add on the 13 desserts, and it's like this incredible spread that you can invite friends over, and they can come and take the different pieces. And then what's really nice is that you leave it on the table, and you can enjoy it on Christmas morning as well. So when you come down and you have your coffee, you can still pick on a few nuts, on apples and pears and oranges, and that's a really nice treat. One question that we often get is the Bûche de Noël part of the Treize Desserts? Traditionally, no. The Bûche de Noël is actually served on the day of Christmas. And actually, I have a Bûche de Noël here, which I will show you. This one we just picked up today from Fresh Baguette. It is a beautiful pistachio and cherry roulé with a vanilla sponge cake, chopped cherries, pistachio buttercream, and a cherry jam. So I have made Bûche de Noël before myself, and it didn't look as professional as this. So I'm going to enjoy this one. Definitely. Thank you, Fresh Baguette. And so on the 25th, you would actually you would add the Bûche de Noël to your 13 desserts that are already laid out on the table.
Tu veux montrer un petit peu les calissons?
Oui.
The tradition is to have, what we have in Provence, and the idea you have the calisson from Aix-en-Provence. Here, You have some nice nougat from Montélimar. And Pierre is eating the nuts, very nice. Bravo, Pierre. We have some orange amer, the nice orange. Tu vas amener la caméra, ma chérie, comme ça, on
oui.
Ça, s'il te plaît. Voilà. You have some nice calissons here. Montre l'assiette avec le petit ticket. Voilà, les petits calissons d'Aix-en-Provence.
So this is a calisson. Calisson is made out of almond paste, and it's a sweet dough with candied sugar on the top. And these are an incredible treat. And
is it close to marzipan?
Yes, it's like a marzipan. Yeah. Absolutely.
Where did you get them?
I ordered off Amazon. I was so upset.
Yeah, the real one from Aix-en-Provence, and you can buy them.
I was so upset because we haven't been in Provence for a few years now, but you can actually order them off Amazon, which is a wonderful treat. This is nougat from Montélimar. It is a white nougat with pistachios and almonds in it. Then we also have dates here. We have pitted dates, which I'll show you. Dates and little chocolates, and then we have des raisins jaunes, which are here. And then we also have dried figs and nuts, walnuts and pecans. And this is one of Sébastien's favorite here is les oranges amères. These are candied oranges with chocolate over them, and you can actually make those at home as well. So yeah, there's a little view of our 13 desserts, which the kids are already enjoying.
What's your favorite?
The pompe à l'huile with the nougat de Montélimar and some pine nuts to put on the pompe à l'huile. The pompe à l'huile, you can eat this with a little bit of the pine nuts. You have here, the pine nuts. Look at that, how it's beautiful. You can put a little bit of these pine nuts on the pompe à l'huile, or simply, cut the pompe à l'huile and put this, dip this on the wine.
Yes.
Pierre, tu veux un peu de crémontagne?
Valentina, do you want some pompe à l'huile? Oh, you got some apple in your teeth. Okay.
Yeah, can you tell us more about how you eat it? I've heard you're not supposed to cut it with a knife, right?
Le pompe à l'huile?
No.
No, we tear it open. So I'm tearing it open here. You can see the bottom is nice and golden.
Look
See, it's almost like a fry bread. This is the
l'intérieur. Voilà.
Thank you. It's like a soft, pillowy fry bread, and you just tear it apart like this. It's amazing, and it's so fragrant. It tastes of it. Smells of the orange blossom. It's like a donut. It's
better.
He's like no.
And like the French, you know, we do this with a cappuccino or chocolate or coffee to put the croissant, you know, on it. You can do the same with the red wine, and it is very good.
So la pompe à l'huile dipped in the vin chaud.
Someone is saying you should have your own show. This is wonderful. Vous êtes le top.
Merci. I would love that one day.
Sarah was asking if you have the special tradition of filling walnuts or prunes with almond paste. Her mother did it, and she was from the south of France.
Yes, you can definitely do that.
Fruits déguisés.
Les fruits déguisés. And normally, we use, you know, the pruneau and the date, you know, with the almond, you know, we have this pink or white, you know, or green, you know, like la pâte d'amande. Yes, it was nice. And you use a nice cerneau de noix to put, you know, on the top of this, you know, a blonde, very blonde cerneau noir, you know, like that. Not the brown one, you know. These ones are very nice.
I think it's just such a wonderful tradition because it's actually so much easier, as I was saying at the beginning, than it sounds. And it's just incredibly convivial. You would have your friends or family around the table and everyone's just picking at the different things. It's like a grazing board or, you know, the equivalent of a cheese and charcuterie board, but with sweets. And it's actually rather healthy and enjoyable. Cheers. Et bon, okay, bravo.
Bon, très bien.
I wish we could deliver some of this to you, Natasha, because this is like,
oh my God.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It is soft and like it has a nice dense structure. It's like an incredible brioche.
Yeah. I was a little bit intimidated by when I learned that you have to raise the dough for 5 hours, but actually it doesn't look that difficult. You just need to make sure that you have really alive yeast, that it works.
Yes.
And you know, probably spend some time rolling it out and making it in the shape of a leaf, but then it doesn't sound that difficult. So yeah, I'll give it a try.
That's often the thing with French cooking, is that it sounds incredibly intimidating. People are intimidated by French cooking, but I mean, I made this dough in it took 15 minutes of actual cooking time. It's the 5 hours where you just let it sit, but you don't have to do anything to it. You're just letting it sit and you're going on with your day. And yeah, so it's much less intimidating than it sounds. And I think that's a common thread with French cooking, which is really the basis of the blog, was to say, you know, I've been cooking with him for 17 years and I'm not a professionally trained chef, and I'm able to I'm able to make incredible dishes because I've picked up on tips and tricks in cooking with you that I'm happy to share.
When you discover all of the tips and tricks, you know, it's way better, you know, for sure. Like the wine, for example, you know, it's so nice because you don't have all of this alcohol, you know, taste, you know, and not too much sugar, you know, on it. It's still wine, you know, hot wine, vin chaud, with a lot of perfume, you know, but it's not this sugar, you know, a beverage that you say, oh, yeah, no.
You're not going to have a headache after one glass of this. Although, do be careful, because a couple glasses, it will definitely get to your head. Not headache style, but the Grand Marnier, it packs a punch in there.
And if you have some left, can you rewarm it, or it's not a good practice?
Yes.
I think we're actually probably going to rewarm this batch that I've just made several times over the next week, right? We're a week away from Christmas. Oh, wow.
It's time flies, definitely. Someone was asking if you can make pompe à l'huile a savory one.
I'm imagine so. No? Est-ce que tu peux faire un pompe à l'huile salée?
Oui.
Mais oui.
Yeah, you can do this, absolutely.
Without all the sugar, like without adding the sugar to the dough, would it still have the same consistency though?
Yeah, you need to put, a little bit more olive oil, the salt, or fleur de sel on the top. But yes.
Wow.
If you put some fleur de sel on the top, and some fresh thyme, or rosemary, at the end, yeah, you can have something nice. At this time, if you want to have a little bit crust, you can put, the moist rags, on the top, like it's made like a focaccia, Yes,
yeah, I guess a focaccia would be a very similar.
No?
And fougasse, is it the same?
Fougasse,
yes.
It's a fougasse, yeah. And the fougasse, it's more higher in temperature, and yes, you need to put the rags with the moisture, and some humidity to be sure you have this light crust, on the top. Yes.
Since we started talking about Christmas traditions, and for example, Anina, Belle, you just showed us this beautiful Bûche de Noël. Can you tell us what your Christmas or Christmas Eve, more like le réveillon dinner, will look like this year?
The Christmas, so the night of Christmas would be when we have le gros souper. And le gros souper, your grandmother always made les langoustes à
Langoustes à l'armoricaine, yes.
Ouais. So the gros souper is the one that is much more decadent. At the gros souper, we would have foie gras, we would have saumon fumé, we would have smoked salmon, we would have oysters, we would have c'est quoi les langoustes? Langoustines?
The langouste, it's langouste. Lingosta.
On the 25th is really the big luxury meal. On the 24th is more of they call it le repas pauvre ou le repas maigre, because it's supposed to be more reserved. And then the 25th is.
I think langoust is actually a lobster, right?
No, it's not the same. The langoust, what we have in south of France, it's the same family, but you don't have the claw. With the lobster, you have the two claw. With the langoust, you don't have the claw, and it's more thin, and the shell, it's more strong, like on the pink side. When you cook a lobster, you are going to have this, more on the orange side of the color. Langosta, it's, very nice, without the claw. And we cut this in half, she put this on olive oil on the pan. And after she have all of the tomato ripe, that she have from the summer, the sauce, you put this on it with a little bit of cognac, alcohol inside, and something simple. Langosta, tomato, cognac, you cook like that, olive oil. It's amazing. With the rice, with laurel.
So langoust would be le plat principal. Langoust would be in your family the main course, right?
Yeah, le plat principal. Principal, yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You would also think do a dindon marron. They did a turkey or chapon.
We have the chapon. We have a lot of chestnut. In the region of Var, south of France, Toulon, Pierrefeu, notamment Pierrefeu, small town close from Toulon, and we have a lot of chestnut. And when we cook this, with the turkey, it's amazing because we have the juice, light, and the chestnut, can give you some sugary taste, but you are not on the flour side because the marron we put, them in the syrup before to be sure they are cooked. And after that, we put them, on the juice, and cooking with the turkey. This is why it's never the chestnut, like a flour paste you have. It's something very dense, and nice. Yeah. I miss this a lot.
Yeah, I remember I spent a month in the south of France, and you have walnuts there too, right? So you get lots of fresh nuts, and that's amazing.
The walnut, it's, when you see this one, they are very blonde, very nice, and we call this, the cerneau. It's different because this one, I think, it's different, but when you crack, the nut, with the shell, it's always nice because they are blonde, it's nice. And we used to keep this shell, for the kids, because after Christmas, we keep the shell, this one, and we paint them, to become like a turtle, and the kids, they play with this and they paint the shell of the walnut, to make a turtle, And normally, on a des billes. Comment ça s'appelle les billes pour jouer?
marbles.
The marbles, you know, to play. You put the marbles, you know, inside, and after they can play, you know.
Well, someone was actually asking, so to set a table like that, how expensive are all the ingredients?
For this
yes.
Show, I think it's
Mama, I need to go to the
$70.
70 to 100, I think.
Maximum. But this is for 6 people.
Yes, this is really for 6 to 8 people. And I think we spent about $70 to $100. It's the
wine included.
With the wine included. Yes. It's the dried figs. It's the pecan nuts. It's the calisson. No, the calisson are more expensive. It was $30 to buy a boîte de calisson. I don't have the box here anymore. But that lasts for a long time as well. The nougat is about $10. So those are the two most expensive items. Is the calisson, which is 30, and the nougat, which is about 10. The rest you can buy in bulk, which I highly suggest. So it's hard to really say how much this is because we have a big bag of walnuts and we go through them. In the same way that we have a big bag of pecans and we have a big bag of raisins. We have kids, so raisins are very helpful. And we love dates as well.
The food cost for this, you know, event, you know, will be probably around $85 with the wine included. And for 6 to 8, and it's amazing because you have everything here, you know. The thing, you know, what we probably miss is that the pâte d'amande, you know, the pink and green and the white pâte d'amande to put, you know, with the date and the pruneau. But after, you know, it's nice. Look at that. The pine nuts, you can reuse it on the sauce vierge, you know, and you put the pine nuts on your brioche, you know. It's
yes. If you didn't participate in the branzino class that we did in April, the sauce vierge that goes on top of branzino is unbelievable, and it's made with pine nuts and basil. Yeah. And I'll be making a lot of that come springtime again as we get fresh ingredients coming in.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Anina, Belle, and Sébastien, for introducing us to this wonderful tradition. I think we all knew about Bûche de Noël, but this is something new, very interesting. As you say, healthy. I'm going to be making my own pompe à l'huile. And we wish you Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël, de très bonnes fêtes de fin d'année. I'm wishing wonderful winter holiday season to all of you. Thank you so much, and we will see you next year. I hope you will be back.
There's one thing, Natasha, that I wanted to, we have a little giveaway because you mentioned the Bûche de Noël. Fresh Baguette is offering a gift certificate of $25 to one of the participants in the class today. So we will pick an email at random and send you an email and you get a $25 gift certificate, which can buy you a Bûche de Noël at Fresh Baguette. Voila. So that will be coming shortly.
Thank you so much. That's great. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Natasha. It is always a pleasure to sit down and chat with you. And really, you have made such an incredible year for us with these cooking demonstrations. You haven't received our Christmas card yet, but when you do, you will see that there's a photo of our cooking demonstrations with Alliance Française on the Christmas card. It made the short list of top moments of our year. So, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
Merci à vous.
Merci beaucoup.
Santé.
Joyeuses fêtes.
Merci.
Joyeuses fêtes aussi. Santé.
Cheers.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.